The crystal halls of Nexus Prime hummed with the voices of 12 different species. Ambassador Kethvar stood at the center of the Great Council Chamber, his blue skin gleaming under the artificial lights. The weekly trade meeting was almost over when he noticed something strange on his datapad. "High Counselor Vexthal," Kethvar called out, his voice cutting through the chatter. "We have detected ships at the edge of the Outer Rim." The reptilian leader of the Galactic Council turned his large head toward the Zephyrian ambassador. His golden eyes narrowed as he studied the data. "What kind of ships? The readings are unusual," Kethvar replied, his fingers dancing over the holographic display. "The metal composition matches old human designs, but the energy signatures are completely unknown." A wave of amused chirps and growls filled the chamber. The hegemony representative, a tall insectoid creature named Vexkith, clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among his kind. "Humans?" Vexkith buzzed. "Those primitive creatures vanished 1,000 years ago. What you detected must be their descendants playing with broken technology." High Counselor Vexthal raised his clawed hand for silence. The chamber fell quiet. "Show us the data." And the massive screen above the council chamber flickered to life. 3 ships appeared on the display, their sleek forms cutting through space like silver knives. They moved with a grace that seemed impossible for vessels their size. Each ship was nearly 2 kilometers long, with smooth curves that reflected starlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "These ships are approaching the new Terra system," Kethvar continued. "That world belongs to the Hegemony Corporation now. They have been mining it for the past 300 years. Vexkith's compound eyes focused on the screen. "Send a warning transmission? Tell these scavengers to leave immediately or face the consequences." "We tried," Kethvar said quietly. They responded. The chamber erupted in surprised sounds. No one had heard from humans in centuries. Most species believed they had died out completely after their mysterious disappearance. "What did they say?" Vexthal demanded. Kethvar touched his datapad and a voice filled the chamber. It was human, male, and spoke with calm authority that made the alien representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. We request permission to land on New Terra and reclaim what was once ours. We mean no harm to any beings currently on the planet, but this world belongs to humanity." The message ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Finally, Vexkith broke the quiet with an angry buzz. "Ridiculous! The humans abandoned that world. We claimed it legally according to galactic law. They have no right to return after all this time." "Perhaps we should listen to what they have to say," suggested a voice from the back of the chamber. Dr. Melandra, the peaceful cetacean representative, floated in her water tank near the wall. "If these truly are humans, we should handle this situation carefully." "Carefully?" Vexkith spun around to face her. "They are a dead species trying to claim territory that no longer belongs to them. We should send the fleet to remove them immediately." High Counselor Vexthal studied the ships on the screen. Something about them bothered him, though he could not say what. The way they moved through space seemed wrong somehow, as if they were not quite part of the same reality as everything else. "What is the status of our forces in the new Terra system?" he asked. Kethvar consulted his datapad. "The Hegemony has 12 warships protecting their mining operations. They also have defense platforms around the planet and a garrison of 50,000 soldiers on the surface." "More than enough to handle 3 ships," Vexkith said with satisfaction, "even if they are human ships." But as the words left his mouth, new data began streaming across the displays. The human ships had reached New Terra, and what happened next would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. The 3 human vessels approached the planet without slowing down. The Hegemony fleet moved to intercept them, weapons charging and ready to fire. The defense platforms locked onto the human ships with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "Human vessels, you are in violation of Hegemony space," came the transmission from the lead warship. "Turn back immediately or we will open fire." Commander Morrison's voice replied with the same calm tone as before. "We have no wish to harm you. Please move your forces away from New Terra. We will give you time to evacuate your people safely. The Hegemony Admiral's response was swift and harsh. You have 10 seconds to retreat, or we will destroy your ships. What happened next defied everything the Watching Council members understood about space combat. The human ships did not fire weapons. They did not raise shields. They simply continued their approach to the planet. The Hegemony fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and quantum torpedoes streaked toward the 3 human vessels. The watching aliens expected to see the ships destroyed in brilliant explosions. Instead, the weapons simply passed through the human ships as if they were not there. Impossible, whispered Vexkith, his compound eyes wide with shock. The human ships reached the planet's atmosphere and began their descent. As they did, something extraordinary happened. Every piece of non-human technology on and around New Terra simply stopped working. The Hegemony warships went dark, their engines failing and their weapons powering down. The defense platforms shut off one by one. On the planet's surface, mining equipment ground to a halt. Even the personal communicators of the Hegemony soldiers stopped functioning, but the strangest part was that life support systems continued to work. The air recyclers kept running. The water purifiers kept functioning. The artificial gravity stayed stable. It was as if the human ships could somehow tell the difference between technology meant to sustain life and technology meant to cause harm. Commander Morrison's voice came through the council chamber's speakers once more. Though no one could explain how the transmission was reaching them across such vast distances. To all Hegemony personnel on New Terra, he said, you have 24 hours to evacuate the planet. Transport ships will arrive shortly to carry you safely to the nearest Hegemony world. Take only personal belongings. All mining equipment and military hardware will remain behind. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other in a dozen different languages. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for diplomatic contact. A few, like Dr. Melandra, urged caution and careful observation. High Counselor Vexthal remained silent, studying the data streaming in from New Terra. The human ships had landed near the planet's largest city, which had been built on the ruins of an old human settlement. Thousands of Hegemony colonists were already boarding the transport vessels that had appeared as if from nowhere. How are they doing this? Kethvar asked quietly. Their technology is beyond anything we have ever seen. Perhaps, Vexthal replied, we have underestimated what the humans became during their 1,000-year absence. As the hours passed, the evacuation of New Terra proceeded smoothly. The human ships made no aggressive moves. They simply waited, silent and patient, as the Hegemony forces prepared to leave. True to Commander Morrison's word, every person on the planet was safely evacuated within the promised time frame. When the last transport ship left New Terra's atmosphere, the human vessels began to change. The council watched in amazement as the ships seemed to dissolve, their matter spreading across the planet's surface like morning mist. Where they touched the ground, dead soil began to show signs of life. Poison rivers started to run clear. The strip-mined landscape began to heal itself. They are not just reclaiming the planet, Dr. Melandra observed. They are restoring it. High Counselor Vexthal leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. The humans had returned, but they were not the same species that had vanished 1,000 years ago. They had become something else entirely, something with power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Send a message to all member worlds, he ordered. Tell them to prepare for a new age. The humans have returned and nothing will ever be the same. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in heavy silence. Outside the crystal walls of Nexus Prime, the stars continued their ancient dance. Unaware that the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted forever, the humans were back, and they were no longer asking for permission to exist among the stars. They were taking their place as the galaxy's new masters, one world at a time. The news of New Terra spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every major world knew that humans had returned and taken back their first planet without firing a single shot. The story grew with each telling, becoming more incredible and frightening with every transmission. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the human flagship, watching the stars through the transparent walls that should not have been possible. Her ship had no metal hull, no traditional structure that other species could understand. It was something else entirely, something that existed in the spaces between normal matter. "Captain," came the voice of her communications officer, Lieutenant Don Brooks. "We are receiving messages from 47 different worlds. Most are asking us to stay away from their territory." Amy smiled, but there was no warmth in it. She remembered the old days when humans had begged these same species for protection and been turned away. When human colonies had been raided by pirates while alien fleets watched and did nothing. When human children had been sold as slaves. In markets that still operated today, and the others? She asked. 3 worlds are requesting immediate assistance. They say they are being attacked by raiders and need our help. Amy nodded. Set course for the closest one. It is time to show the galaxy what human protection really means. The human fleet moved through space in ways that hurt to watch. They did not travel around obstacles or through established jump lanes. They simply appeared where they wanted to. Be, as if distance itself was just another rule they had learned to ignore. Their first stop was Gamma Station, an industrial world that had once been a human agricultural colony. The native Draconians had claimed it after humanity's disappearance, stripping away the fertile soil and turning it into a massive mining operation. Now the planet was gray and lifeless, its surface scarred by deep pits and toxic waste. General Vexmore commanded the Draconian defense fleet from his flagship, the Iron Fang. He was a veteran of many battles, his dark scales marked with the scars of countless conflicts. When the human ships appeared in his system, he felt something he had not experienced in decades, genuine fear. How many ships? He demanded of his sensor operator. 12, General. But they are not moving in any formation we recognize. Vexmore studied the tactical display. The human vessels hung in space like sleeping giants, their strange forms defying easy description. They seemed to shift and change as he watched, as if they were not quite solid. "Open a channel," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the face of a human woman with short brown hair and intense green eyes. She wore no uniform that Dexmore recognized, just simple clothing that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "I am Captain Amy Rodriguez of the Human Expeditionary Force," she said. "You are in violation of human space. Remove your forces." Immediately, Dexmore's throat sac inflated with anger. "This world has belonged to the Draconian Empire for 800 years. You have no claim here." "We have the only claim that matters," Amy replied calmly. "We were here first, and we have returned to reclaim what was stolen from us." "Stolen?" Dexmore roared. "You abandoned this world. We found it empty and made it productive. We brought industry and progress to a wasteland." Amy's expression did not change. "You brought destruction to a garden? But that can be fixed." The transmission ended, leaving Vexmore staring at a blank screen. He turned to his weapons officer, a young Draconian named Velcast. "Prepare all batteries for combat. If these humans want to fight, we will give them one they will never forget." The Draconian fleet consisted of 50 heavy cruisers and 200 smaller vessels. They had enough firepower to level a continent, and General Vexmore was prepared to use every bit of it. "All ships, this is the Iron Fang," he broadcast. "Target the human vessels and prepare to fire on my command." But before he could give the order, something impossible happened. The human ship closest to Gamma Station began to change. Its hull rippled like water, and then it started to grow. Within moments, it had expanded to 10 times its original size, its surface becoming transparent, dot through the clear walls. The Draconians could see a man working at what looked like a control panel made of pure light. He was tall and lean with graying hair and steady hands. This was Chief Engineer Ben Clark, though the watching aliens did not know his name. Ben touched the glowing controls, and the planet below began to transform. The gray dust that covered Gamma Station started to turn green. Dead rivers began to flow with clean water. The poisoned atmosphere cleared, revealing blue skies that had been hidden for centuries. Impossible, whispered Velcast. No one can change an entire planet so quickly. But the transformation was far from finished. The deep mining pits started to fill with rich soil. Trees appeared where none had grown for 800 years. The toxic waste dumps became clear lakes filled with fish that had never existed on this world before. Within hours, Gamma Station had become a garden paradise that put the original human colony to shame. The air was clean, the water was pure, and life flourished in every corner of the planet. General Vexmore stared at the transformed world in shock. His empire had spent centuries trying to terraform dead planets, usually with limited success. The humans had done it in a single afternoon. "General," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a message from the human fleet." Amy. Rodriguez appeared on the screen again, but this time she was not alone. Standing beside her was a woman with silver hair and kind eyes. This was Dr. Lisa Grant, though she looked nothing like the scientists the Draconians knew. "General Vexmore," Amy said, "we offer you and your people safe passage to any Draconian world you choose. Take your personal belongings and leave this planet within 48 hours. And if we refuse?" Vexmore growled. Dr. Grant stepped forward. "Then you will find that your weapons no longer function, your ships no longer fly, and your life support systems provide only the minimum needed for survival. We will not kill you, but we will not allow you to prevent us from reclaiming what is ours." As if to prove her point, every weapon on every Draconian ship went offline simultaneously. The targeting systems shut down, the plasma cannons stopped charging, and the missile tubes sealed themselves closed. "How are you doing this?" Vexmore demanded. "We learned many things during our time away," Lisa replied. "One of them was how to speak to matter itself, how to convince it to behave as we wish rather than as you command." The general looked around his bridge, seeing the fear in his officers' eyes. They were warriors, trained from birth to fight and die for the Empire. But how could they fight an enemy that could turn their own weapons against them? "All ships," he said finally, "prepare for evacuation. We are leaving this system." The retreat of the Draconian fleet was orderly and swift. Within 36 hours, every non-human had left Gamma Station. The humans did not pursue them or threaten them. They simply watched as the ships departed, then turned their attention to the restored planet below. But the transformation of Gamma Station was just the beginning. Over the following weeks, human fleets appeared at dozens of former human worlds. Each time, the pattern was the same. The humans would arrive, demonstrate their impossible technology, and then politely but firmly ask the current occupants to leave. Some species complied immediately, having heard the stories from New Terra and Gamma Station. Others tried to resist, only to find their weapons useless and their ships powerless. A few attempted to negotiate, offering to share the worlds or pay tribute for the right to stay. The human response was always the same. These worlds belonged to humanity, and humanity had returned to reclaim them. There was no room for negotiation or compromise. Senator Kate Williams addressed the Galactic Council from the bridge of her ship, the Remembrance. She was an older woman with white hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of long years and hard decisions. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the galaxy through means no one could understand. "We are not conquerors. We are not invaders. We are humans, returning to our rightful place among the stars." The council chamber on Nexus Prime was packed with representatives from every major species. High Counselor Vexthal sat at the center, his golden eyes fixed on the screen showing the human senator. "For 1,000 years you have lived on our worlds, mined our resources, and built your civilizations on the bones of our colonies," Kate continued. "We do not ask for payment or revenge. We ask only for the return of what was never yours too." "Take." Vexkith, the hegemony representative, buzzed angrily. "You speak of rights, but you enforce them with power? What makes you different from any other conqueror?" Kate smiled sadly. "We could destroy your fleets, collapse your governments, and remake your worlds in our image. Instead, we offer you safe passage and the chance to build new lives elsewhere. That is the difference between justice and conquest. The transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. Outside the crystal halls of Nexus Prime, the galaxy watched and waited. The humans were back, and they were changing everything. The Galactic Council had been in emergency session for 3 days. Representatives from every major species sat in the crystal halls of Nexus Prime, their voices raised in fear and anger. The humans had taken back 17 worlds in the past month, and no one could stop them. High Counselor Vexthal looked tired. His golden eyes were dim, and his usually perfect scales appeared dull under the chamber's lights. The stress of the human return was wearing on everyone, but as the council's leader, he felt the weight of responsibility more than most. "We need answers," he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "The humans claim they are the same species. That vanished 1,000 years ago, but their technology is beyond anything we have ever seen. How is this possible?" Dr. Melandra floated in her water tank, her gentle voice cutting through the tension. "Perhaps we should ask them directly. They have been willing to communicate so far." "Ask them?" Vexkith buzzed angrily. "They ignore our demands, take our worlds, and you want to have a conversation." "They have not harmed anyone," Melandra replied calmly. "Every evacuation has been peaceful. Every world they have taken has been restored to better condition than before. Perhaps their intentions are not as hostile as we believe." Before anyone could respond, the chamber's lights dimmed. The air itself seemed to thicken, and a presence filled the room that made every representative's skin crawl. Then, without warning, a figure materialized in the center of the chamber. It was Dr. Lisa Grant, but she was not using any technology the council members could understand. She had simply appeared, as if stepping from one reality into another. "You wanted answers," she said, her voice somehow reaching every corner of the massive chamber without amplification. "I am here to give them to you." The representative sat in stunned silence. Security guards reached for weapons that would not activate. Defense systems tried to target the human woman but found nothing to lock onto. "How did you get here?" Vexthal demanded. "This station has the most advanced security in the galaxy," Lisa smiled, but there was sadness in her expression. "Your security is designed to stop physical beings using physical technology. We are no longer entirely physical." "What do you mean?" Dr. Melandra asked gently. Lisa walked to the center of the chamber, her feet making no sound on the crystal floor. 1,000 years ago, humanity faced extinction. Your species had made that very clear. We were weak, primitive, and unwelcome among the stars, so we made a choice. She raised her hand, and the air above her palm began to glow. Light formed into shapes that showed the history she was describing. The watching aliens saw human worlds burning, human ships being destroyed, human children being sold in slave markets. "We could have fought," Lisa continued. "We could have built bigger weapons, stronger ships, more soldiers. But we chose a different path. We chose to transcend the physical limitations that made us vulnerable." The light in her hand shifted, showing images that hurt to look at directly. Humans standing together in vast circles, their bodies beginning to glow. Cities full of people who were slowly becoming something else, something that existed in the spaces between atoms. "We became one with the quantum foundation of reality itself," Lisa explained. "We learned to exist as pure consciousness, able to manipulate matter and energy at the most fundamental level." Commander Jake Morrison materialized beside her, his form slightly transparent, as if he was not quite solid. "For 1,000 years, we watched. We saw how you divided our worlds among yourselves. We saw how you erased our history and claimed our achievements as your own." "You were gone," Vexkith protested. "The worlds were empty. We had every right to claim them." Jake's eyes flashed with anger, and suddenly every piece of hegemony technology in the chamber stopped working. The representative's translator went silent, his personal shield failed, and even his breathing apparatus shut down. "We were not gone," Jake said quietly. "We were everywhere. In every atom, every photon, every quantum vibration. We watched you desecrate our worlds and enslave our people. We saw you build your empires on the bones of our civilizations. Dr. Lisa Grant touched Jake's arm and the hegemony equipment started working again. But we also learned patience. We learned that true power comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when and how to use that power. A new voice spoke from the air itself, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. We learned that consciousness is the highest form of existence, and that those who transcend physical limitations have a responsibility to guide those who remain bound by them. The voice belonged to Professor Alan Woods, though his name meant nothing to the assembled aliens. He had been one of the first humans to achieve transcendence, and his consciousness now existed in the quantum foam that filled all space. Show yourselves, High Counselor Vexthil demanded. If you are truly here, let us see you. The chamber filled with light, and suddenly the council members could see them. Thousands of human forms stood in the air around them, translucent and glowing, with inner fire. They were young and old, men and women, children and elders. All of them were the humans who had vanished 1,000 years ago. We are here, Professor Wood said, his form becoming more solid as he spoke. We have always been here. Every world you claimed, every star you traveled to, every breath you took was possible because we allowed it. The implications hit the alien representatives like a physical blow. If the humans could exist anywhere, could manipulate matter at the quantum level, could appear and disappear at will, then they were not just technologically superior. They were something approaching gods. What do you want from us? Dr. Melandra asked, her voice barely a whisper. Lisa Grant stepped forward. We want what any people want. We want our homes back. We want recognition of what was done to us. We want to ensure that no species ever suffers as we did. And if we refuse? Vexthil asked. Jake Morrison's form became fully solid, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 1,000 years of patience finally reaching its end. Then you will learn what it means to be truly powerless. Your ships will not fly, your weapons will not fire. Your worlds will provide only the minimum needed for survival until you agree to our terms. This is tyranny, Vexgiv buzzed desperately. You are using your power to impose your will on the entire galaxy. Professor Woods laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Tyranny? We could remake every world in the galaxy in an instant. We could force every species to kneel before us. We could eliminate anyone who opposed us with a thought. Instead, we offer you the chance to live peacefully on worlds that were never yours to begin with. What are your terms? High Counselor Vexthil asked, his voice heavy with resignation. Dr. Lisa Grant waved her hand, and a document appeared in the air above the chamber. It was written in the language of every species present, somehow translating itself as each representative. Read it. The Galactic Restoration Charter, she announced. All former human worlds will be returned to human control. Species that have committed crimes against humanity will make appropriate reparations. All forms of slavery will be abolished immediately. The Galactic Council will be restructured with humanity as the guiding authority. And if we sign this charter? Dr. Melandra asked. Then you will find that humanity can be the most generous and helpful species in the galaxy, Lisa replied. We will share our knowledge, heal your sick worlds, and protect you from those who would do you harm. And if we refuse? Jake Morrison's expression grew cold. Then you will learn that there are worse things than death. You will learn what it means to be truly helpless in a universe that does not care about your needs or wants. The quantum forms of the humans began to fade, leaving only Lisa Grant visible in the chamber. You have 7 days to decide. Each species must choose individually. There will be no collective decision, no hiding behind the Council's authority. Each of you will face the consequences of your choice alone. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. The humans you see before you are not the only ones who transcended. There are others, billions of others, who chose to remain in the quantum realm. They are watching this conversation, and they will know what you decide. With that, she vanished, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. The representatives sat in their seats, staring at the empty space where she had stood. Outside the crystal walls of Nexus Prime, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that the fate of the galaxy had just been decided in a single conversation. High Counselor Vexthal was the first to speak. We have 7 days to choose between submission and annihilation. May whatever gods we believe in help us make the right choice. The emergency session continued through the night, but everyone already knew what the outcome would be. The humans had returned, and they were no longer asking for permission to exist. They were demanding their rightful place as the galaxy's rulers, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. The age of human dominance had begun, and it would reshape the galaxy in ways that no one could imagine. The 7 days passed like a nightmare for most species in the galaxy. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council remained in constant session as representatives argued, pleaded, and made desperate plans that everyone knew would fail. Senator Kate Williams stood in the Human Command Center on New Terra, watching the responses come in from across the galaxy. The room around her was unlike anything built by other species. The walls seemed to be made of crystallized light, and the floor showed images of every world in the galaxy in real time. How many have agreed to the charter? She asked Captain Amy Rodriguez, who was studying a floating display that showed the galaxy's political map. 43 species have signed, Amy replied, including the cetaceans, the peaceful traders, Union, and most of the smaller independent worlds. They seem to understand that cooperation is better than resistance. And the others? Amy's expression darkened. 15 species are still refusing. The Hegemony Corporation, the Draconian Empire, the Warlords of Keth, and the Crystalline Consortium are forming what they call the Resistance Alliance. They think they can fight us. Kate sighed, looking older than her years. They still don't understand what we've become. They think this is about technology and weapons. Admiral P. Collins materialized beside them, his quantum form solidifying into physical appearance. He had been coordinating human forces across the galaxy, ensuring that every former human world was properly secured. The Resistance Alliance is massing their fleets near the Keth system, he reported. General Vexmore is leading the combined forces. They have over 50,000 ships ready for battle. 50,000, Kate repeated sadly. They really believe numbers will make a difference. Dr. Lisa Grant appeared in the room, her form shifting between solid and translucent as she moved. The deadline expires in 6 hours. Are we prepared for what comes next? Kate nodded slowly. Begin the enforcement protocols. Show them what happens when they choose resistance over cooperation. Across the galaxy, the species that had refused to sign the charter were about to learn a lesson that would reshape their understanding of power forever. On the hegemony homeworld of Vex Prime, Corporate Chairman Zeknal sat in his tower office, surrounded by the most advanced defenses his species could build. Energy shields protected the building, and automated defense turrets scanned the skies for threats. Sir, his assistant buzzed nervously, all our ships in the outer systems have stopped responding. Zeknal's compound eyes focused on the holographic display showing his corporate empire. Red indicators were spreading across the map as facility. After facility went offline? What do you mean stopped responding? They're still there, sir, but nothing works. No engines, no weapons, no communications. The crews are alive but trapped. Before Zeknal could respond, the lights in his office flickered and died. The energy shields around his building shut down. The defense turrets powered off. Even his personal breathing apparatus stopped working, leaving him gasping in the thin air. Then Captain Amy Rodriguez walked through the wall as if it wasn't there. Chairman Zeknal, she said politely, you have refused to sign the Galactic Restoration Charter. As promised, we are now implementing enforcement measures. This is impossible, Zeknal wheezed, struggling to breathe. Our defenses are impenetrable. Amy gestured, and the breathing apparatus started working again. Your defenses are designed to stop physical attacks. We are no longer bound by physical limitations. She waved her hand, and the office's windows became transparent screens showing hegemony worlds across the galaxy. On every planet, the same thing was happening. Old technology had stopped working except for basic life support systems. Billions of hegemony citizens were stranded without transportation, communication, or weapons. "What do you want?" Zeknal asked. "The same thing we have always wanted. Recognition of our rights and reparations for the damage you have caused. Your corporation enslaved human populations and strip-mined our worlds. That debt must be paid. We will fight you," Zeknal said, trying to sound brave despite his obvious fear. Amy smiled sadly. "With what? Your ships cannot fly. Your weapons cannot fire. Your soldiers cannot communicate with each other. You have no power except what we allow you to have." Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy as human representatives appeared before the leaders of every resisting species. The message was always the same: submit to the charter or face the consequences of continued resistance. But the most dramatic confrontation was happening in the Keth system, where General Vexmore commanded the massive fleet of the Resistance. Alliance. The Draconian general stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by holographic displays showing 50,000 warships in perfect battle formation. Ships from a dozen species floated in the void, their weapons charged and ready for the fight of their lives. "Sensors show no sign of human vessels," his tactical officer reported. "Long-range scans detect nothing approaching our position." Vexmore nodded grimly. "They will come. And when they do, we will show them that the galaxy will not bow to tyranny." But as the words left his mouth, reality began to change around the Resistance fleet. The stars themselves seemed to shift position. Space twisted and bent in ways that hurt to look at directly. Then the humans appeared. They did not come in ships. They did not travel through hyperspace or use jump gates. They simply materialized throughout the Resistance fleet, standing in the vacuum of space without protection, glowing with inner light that made them visible across impossible distances. Commander Jake Morrison appeared directly in front of General Vexmore's flagship, his form large enough to be seen clearly from the bridge. His voice reached every ship in the fleet simultaneously, coming from inside their own communication systems. "General Vexmore," Jake said, his voice calm and patient, "you have chosen to resist the Galactic Restoration Charter. This is your final chance to reconsider." "Never," Vexmore roared into his communicator. "We will not submit to human tyranny. All ships, open fire." 50,000 warships unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, quantum torpedoes, and gravitational weapons all fired at once, creating a display of destruction that should have vaporized anything in its path. The energy passed harmlessly through the human forms, causing no damage whatsoever. The humans simply stood in space, unmoved and unharmed by the greatest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. "Your turn," Jake said simply. What happened next would be talked about in whispers for generations. The humans did not fire weapons. They did not attack the ships. They simply convinced matter itself to behave differently. Every weapon on every ship in the Resistance fleet turned to dust. Every engine simply stopped existing. Every piece of military equipment dissolved into harmless atoms, leaving only life. Support systems and basic environmental controls. 50,000 warships became 50,000 lifeboats in the span of 17 minutes. "How?" General Vexmore whispered. Staring at his useless control panels, Professor Alan Woods materialized on the bridge beside him, his quantum form shifting between visible and invisible as he spoke. "We learn to speak the language that matter understands," he explained. "Every atom, every molecule, every particle in the universe follows certain rules. We have become fluent in those rules." "This is not possible," Vexmore said. "You keep saying that," Professor Woods replied. "But you are looking at the evidence. We exist beyond your understanding of what is possible." Rescue ships began appearing. Around the disabled fleet, human vessels that materialized from nowhere to collect the stranded crews. The evacuation was orderly and peaceful, with no violence or threats. As General Vexmore and his officers were transferred to a human transport, he found himself face to face with Senator Kate Williams. "What will happen to us?" he asked. You will be taken to worlds suitable for your species, Kate replied. You will be given the resources needed to build new lives. But you will never again have the power to threaten or oppress others. And our worlds? The worlds you claimed illegally will be returned to their rightful owners. The worlds that truly belong to your species will remain yours, but under human oversight to ensure you do not repeat your past mistakes. Back on Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vexful watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. The Resistance Alliance had been defeated without a single death. The Defiant species had been reduced to helplessness in a matter of hours. Send a message to all remaining holdouts, he ordered his communications officer. Tell them the time, for resistance is over. The humans have shown mercy so far, but that mercy may not last forever. Within days, every remaining species had signed the Galactic Restoration Charter. The age of human dominance had begun, and it was already reshaping the galaxy in ways no one had imagined possible. The humans had returned, and they were no longer asking for their place among the stars. They had taken it, and they would hold it forever. 1 year had passed since the galaxy surrendered to human authority. The Galactic Restoration Charter was now the law of every civilized world, and the changes were beyond anything anyone had imagined possible. Senator Kate Williams stood in the council chamber of New Terra, now the capital of the reformed galactic government. Through the crystal walls, she could see the planet's surface, green and beautiful again after centuries of abuse. Cities of light rose from the restored landscape, their spires reaching toward the stars like prayers made solid. The final vote has been tallied, announced Admiral Pete Collins, his form shimmering as he materialized beside her. The Transcendence Protocol has been approved by 87% of all member species. Kate nodded, though she felt the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. The protocol was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, but also its most dangerous. It offered every species the chance to evolve beyond physical existence, to join humanity in the quantum realm where consciousness could shape reality itself. Any holdouts? She asked. The Crystalline Consortium still refuses, Pete replied. They believe their crystal-based technology makes them immune to our influence. They want to challenge us directly. Kate sighed. The Crystalline Consortium had always been the most advanced species in the galaxy, masters of quantum computing and crystal technology. If anyone could pose a threat to humanity's new order, it would be them. Where are they gathering? The Nexus Cluster. They have brought their entire fleet, plus something new. Our scouts report they have built what they call a reality engine. Before Kate could respond, Dr. Lisa Grant appeared in the chamber, her expression serious. The consortium has issued a formal challenge. They want to settle this once and for all, consciousness against consciousness in the quantum realm itself. They want to fight us in our own domain? Kate asked, surprised. They think they understand how reality works, Lisa replied. They believe that consciousness is just another form of energy that can be controlled and directed. They are wrong, but they will have to learn that the hard way. Commander Jake Morrison materialized beside them, his form more solid than usual. The challenge has been accepted. Professor Woods and I will represent humanity in the quantum battle. But Kate, you need to understand what we are risking. Tell me, if we lose, if the consortium proves stronger than us in the quantum realm, then everything we have built will collapse. They will become the dominant force in the galaxy, and humanity will be reduced to the same powerless state we occupied 1,000 years ago. Kate felt a chill run through her. And if we win? Then we will have proven beyond all doubt that consciousness truly is the highest form of existence. The galaxy will be ready for the final step. In the Nexus cluster, the Crystalline Consortium had assembled the greatest fleet in their species' history. Their ships were living crystals, grown rather than built, that pulsed with inner light and sang with harmonic frequencies that could shatter planets. At the center of the fleet hung the reality engine, a massive crystal structure the size of a small moon. Within its faceted depths, quantum computers worked at speeds that approached the fundamental limits of physics itself. Master Crystal Velthauner, the oldest and wisest of his species, stood within the engine's core chamber. His crystalline body reflected light in patterns that hurt organic eyes to follow, and his voice rang like music when he spoke. "The humans believe they have transcended the physical realm," he said to his assembled councils. "But consciousness is merely organized energy, and energy can be controlled. Today we will prove that crystal perfection is superior to organic evolution." The reality engine began to hum, its quantum computers reaching out into the fundamental forces that held the universe together. The consortium had spent decades building this device, designed to give them the same power over reality that the humans claimed to possess. "Activate the engine," Velthaner commanded. "Show these evolved apes what true power looks like." The battle began not in space, but in the quantum foam that existed between atoms. It was a conflict fought with pure thought and will, where the laws of physics themselves became weapons. Professor Alan Woods faced the consortium's greatest minds in a realm where matter was just another state of consciousness. His form, composed of pure quantum energy, stood against the crystalline perfection of the consortium's champions. "You have built impressive toys," he said, his voice echoing through dimensions that had no names. "But you still think like physical beings. You believe that more power means more control." Master Crystal Velthaner's consciousness blazed like a star in the quantum realm. "We have calculated every possibility, mapped every quantum state. Your organic consciousness cannot match the perfection of our crystal matrices." The reality engine poured energy into the battle, trying to overwhelm the human consciousness with raw computational power. For a moment, it seemed to work. The quantum realm around Professor Woods began to waver and distort, but then Commander Jake Morrison joined the battle, his consciousness merging with Woods in ways the consortium could not understand. They were followed by Dr. Lisa Grant, then Captain Amy Rodriguez, then thousands of other transcended humans. "You still don't understand," Jake said, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 years of evolution. "We are not individuals fighting alone. We are a unified consciousness, billions of minds working as one." The truth hit the consortium like a physical blow. The humans had not just transcended physical existence. They had become a collective intelligence that spanned the entire galaxy. Every human who had achieved transcendence was connected. Their combined wisdom and power focused on this single moment. The reality engine, powerful as it was, could not match the combined consciousness of an entire species that had evolved beyond physical limitations. The crystal structure began to crack as its quantum computers overloaded trying to process the impossible. "Yield," Professor Woods said gently. "You have fought bravely, but this battle was over before it began. We are not trying to destroy you. We are trying to save you." Master Crystal Velthaner felt his perfect crystalline form beginning to resonate with frequencies he had never experienced before. The humans were not attacking him. They were showing him what it felt like to exist beyond the boundaries of matter and energy. "This is impossible," he whispered, but even as he spoke, he could feel his consciousness expanding, touching realities he had never imagined. "Nothing is impossible," Jake replied. "There are only things you have not yet learned to understand." The battle in the quantum realm ended not with victory or defeat, but with understanding. The crystalline consortium felt their consciousness touch the infinite possibilities that existed beyond physical reality, and they knew that their challenge had been answered. Back in normal space, the reality engine went dark. The consortium fleet hung motionless in the void, their crews experiencing a transformation that would change them forever. On New Terra, Senator Kate Williams felt the moment when the last resistance to human authority crumbled. The galaxy was finally united under a single vision of what intelligent life could become. "Begin the final phase," she ordered. Across the galaxy, the Transcendence Protocol went into effect. Every species that had signed the charter was offered the choice that humanity had made 1,000 years ago: remain bound by physical limitations, or evolve into something greater. The response was overwhelming. Species that had fought wars for millennia chose to transcend together. Civilizations that had been enemies for generations joined their consciousness in the quantum realm. The galaxy itself began to transform as more and more beings chose evolution over stagnation. Dr. Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of a ship that no longer needed to exist, watching as the stars themselves began to change. Planets that had been dead for millions of years bloomed with new life. Suns that had been dying were renewed with quantum energy. Space itself became alive with consciousness. "Is this what we hoped for when we began this journey?" she asked Jake Morrison, who stood beside her in a form that was both human and something far greater. "This is better than we hoped," he replied. "We thought we were saving humanity. Instead, we saved the galaxy itself." The final phase of human evolution was complete. The galaxy had become a single, unified consciousness that existed both in the physical realm and beyond it. Wars became impossible when all beings shared the same thoughts. Suffering became meaningless. When consciousness could reshape reality to eliminate pain, 1,000 years ago, humanity had faced extinction and chosen transcendence. Now, they had given that same gift to every intelligent species in the galaxy. The age of physical limitations was over, and the age of infinite possibility had begun. In the quantum realm, where all consciousness now resided, humanity smiled and welcomed their new family to the eternal dance of minds among the stars. The galaxy was finally at peace, and it would remain so forever.